Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking into a story that honestly has us all kind of baffled. It involves Stephanie Hockridge, the former news anchor from ABC 15 in Phoenix,
Right.
and her husband Nathan Reese. They're facing some pretty serious accusations of financial fraud. And yeah,
Wow.
it's a wild one. We're diving deep into a recent article that breaks down their whole alleged scheme, so
Yeah.
buckle up. It's a bumpy ride.
Okay, so, we all remember Hockridge as this trusted face on ABC 15.
Absolutely.
And the thought of a news anchor, someone we rely on for the truth, being accused of this kind of, deception, it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
It really is. The irony is pretty thick there.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's such a stark contrast.
Yeah.
The article really highlights how they allegedly took advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP.
Right, the PPP.
This was a government initiative that was set up to help businesses that were struggling during the COVID-19 pandemic.
It wasn't just about getting loans for themselves. They're accused of teaching others how to do the same thing,
Wow.
potentially bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's insane. And that brings up the PPP program itself. For those listening who might not be totally familiar with it,
Sure.
could you give us a quick rundown of what that was all about?
Yeah, of course. So the PPP was basically offering forgivable loans to businesses that were affected by the pandemic. The idea was to help them keep their employees on the payroll and, weather the economic storm that was happening. But like with many big government programs, there were loopholes that some people, like Hockridge and Reese, allegedly exploited.
And the article mentions that there was a lot of PPP fraud going on during that time.
Right.
Weren't there even officials who testified about this?
Oh, absolutely. In the 2022 Coronavirus Committee hearings, Representative Jim Clyburn, he talked about how criminals basically saw this crisis as an opportunity to commit fraud against these programs. And it wasn't just anecdotal evidence either. Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz actually revealed that a staggering 57,000 PPP loan applications came from individuals who were already on the Do Not Pay list.
Oh, wow.
Which is a government database of people who have a history of owing money to federal agencies. This alone points to billions of dollars potentially lost to fraudulent activity.
Wow, that do not pay list detail. That's a huge red flag. Sounds like the system had some serious vulnerabilities from the get-go.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions about the safeguards that were or weren't in place. Now, the article goes into some specific allegations against Hockridge and Reese.
Okay.
They supposedly charged applicants a 10% fee
Jesus.
just for securing these loans, which is a direct violation of Small Business Administration rules. And it claims that Reese lied about his race, saying he was African American, and also claimed to be a veteran on his application. It's important to remember that these are allegations, of course.
Right.
But if they're true, it makes you wonder why they thought those specific claims would be advantageous.
Makes you wonder if they thought those details would make their application stand out.
Exactly.
Or even get them preferential treatment, which is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, definitely.
The article also talks about Hockridge's attitude towards the whole program. She's quoted as calling it, get this, $100 billion of free money. And telling her staff, who the F cares? When they were discussing declining borrowers.
Wow.
It's shocking to see this contrast between what she's accused of and her old role as a news anchor.
Absolutely. It really highlights the potential betrayal of public trust here. And this leads us to what might be the most incriminating evidence in this whole case.
What's that?
A 90-second video
A video?
that Hockridge and Reese allegedly made. It outlines their entire process for getting these fraudulent loans.
So they basically documented their own downfall.
It really seems that way. It's like a textbook example of how digital footprints can come back to bite you.
No kidding. And speaking of consequences, they're facing some serious charges. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, 4 counts of wire fraud. And can you break those down for us a bit?
Sure. What exactly is wire fraud, and why does it apply in this case? So wire fraud basically means using electronic communications.
Okay.
Things like emails, phone calls, even online videos, like in this case, to carry out a scheme to defraud someone of money or property. So because they allegedly used those means to facilitate this PPP loan scheme,
Right.
that's why they're facing these particular charges. And if they're convicted, they could be looking at up to 20 years in prison on each count.
That's a long time. The article also mentions that they were living pretty large in Puerto Rico, which is where Reese was eventually caught.
Yeah, it seems they were enjoying the fruits of their alleged crimes.
Yeah.
The contrast between their alleged actions and the impact the pandemic had on so many people is pretty stark.
It's a tough pill to swallow, for sure. This whole situation raises some serious questions. What does this say about the potential for fraud when we're trying to help people in need?
Exactly.
How do we balance providing assistance with protecting against abuse?
It's a tough balance to strike, and this case really brings those issues to light.
It's a reminder that even during a crisis, there are people who will try to take advantage. This case is just one piece of the whole pandemic-related fraud problem. It's a problem that's still unfolding.
Absolutely.
And we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this story, especially with Hockridge's court appearance coming up on November 25th in Dallas, Texas. But for now, I'll leave you with this question. What safeguards, if any, could we put in place to prevent this kind of abuse in future aid programs? It's something to think about. Let us know your thoughts, and until next time, keep diving deeper.